We're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to CRUG. Thank you very much for joining us in person for the first time in 2 years, which is weird. So thank you. Thank you for, give yourselves a hand. Thank you for making it out. I hope that this is somewhat of a sign of things to come, even if it's a little bit of a slow start. I'll talk a little bit about our schedule and kind of what's going on, give you an update on sponsors and things like that. But yeah, I just want to start by saying thank you for joining us. Those of you who don't know me, my name's David DeYars. I've been with the board of CRUG for long enough that I can't really remember when I started. Been president of the board for a few years, and in general, your host for these events. The last couple of years, you might have seen me on Zoom if you've joined us, kind of looking forlorn in a small room, talking to myself. So I'm very happy to be back, hoping that we can really kind of get this rolling again. You'll see my opening slide over here. Autodesk has gone and changed their splash screen completely for Revit 2023, and I put it up there and realized it just doesn't go with my design at all. So I omitted it for the time being. I'll figure something out. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about today's agenda. Give you a little bit of a report, as I said. Then I'm going to hand it over to returning champion Curt Egli from Topcon Solutions. If you've been with us for a while, you've seen Curt's presentations. He's a great presenter, very knowledgeable. We're very happy to have him with us today. We typically, at the CRUG board, when the presentation proposal comes through in the email and it says what's new in Revit 20X, which usually happens around this time of year, we usually kind of collectively groan. You can usually just look at a video from Autodesk on that. But 23 has some new stuff. I've opened it once. I'm on a project that's still on 20, so I don't know. So I actually think there's some interesting stuff in there, and Curt's going to throw a little bit of that in there, and then talk about slope, dealing with slope in Revit. So pretty technical. Be prepared for my questions about what happens when you have a compound curving, sloping driveway that I want to add stem walls up to and they don't attach. I kind of want to know how to do that. So we'll get into that. Let's talk about sponsors a little bit. Like I said, a little bit of a slow start. The last couple of years, CRUG has been kind of out of sight, out of mind. We've been on Zoom. We've gotten sponsors from out of town that don't really want to travel and be here. So consequently, this slide is a little thin. You might see some usual suspects missing from it. So if you have anything to do with Autodesk procurement at your office and you see your team up there missing, give them a call and say, hey, what up? Come support your community, man. No, seriously, what this actually brings me to is talking a little bit about what does our format look like moving forward, right? I mean, we've been doing this here in the library for many, many years, every month of the year, pretty successfully. The last 2 years have shown there's a great desire that was already there by people to have some sort of online, a live stream version of this. We've shied away from it so that people would still come and be in person and be part of the community, which is, let's be honest, more important at the end of the day than the technical aspects, at least in my mind. But I think that we realize that we have to have some flexibility. So the future might bring some changes, might bring maybe some live streaming, maybe some more YouTube content. I don't know. We'll figure something out, but the idea is to continue to plow forward and don't despair. This doesn't mean only 4 meetings this year. We've got some self-sponsored content that I'm pretty excited about. We've got some digital twin presentation coming from Microsoft that may or may not appear. Wink, wink. It's going to be pretty exciting. So we'll be here. We're doing stuff. It just looks a little bit different. So bear with us. As always, a big thank you to the rest of the board. It's been a trying time for us, as you can imagine. Just kind of dealing with all the changes and organizing all this stuff. Just this week we had to organize food again. Haven't done that in 2 weeks. I regret to say that the caterer that we used to use for many years, which was a wonderful mom and pop shop that made just these wonderful homemade desserts, they did not survive the pandemic. They closed shop. So back to the drawing board, and it's really regrettable. But anyway, everybody on the board, thank you very much for your help in putting these things together. And always the plug for the YouTube channel. Like I said, it's been kind of a goal of mine in leading this group to have more content on YouTube. I'm making it more of an active channel. Problem is when we record the meetings as we're doing today, and we'll put up probably by the end of the week this, we'll have the screen share, we'll have the audio, but you don't get the interactivity. So playing around with some ideas of having some cameras in here so we can kind of cut in some of that, maybe that will help with live streaming, but also I think will make the CRUD content a little bit better. And we're thinking about content that is unique for YouTube. So, I don't know about you, but I am a YouTube certified mechanic, motorcycle mechanic, and a lot of people are using YouTube that way these days. So why not be a YouTube certified Revit technician? Sounds good to me. Oops, that is really old. That's from 2 years ago. So I'm going to skip it. I should have removed it from the PowerPoint, and I didn't. So with that, a huge thank you to Topcon for hanging out with us. Topcon has changed names a couple of times, but you guys have been with us from the beginning. So thank you very much. Curt, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to think of really a harder question about slope than what I came prepared with, obviously. So with that, Curt, with you.
Hey everybody, I'm Curt Egli, and like with our training, I'm going to pull this one away, and theoretically this one's on. I think, is that right? Anything happening? He's looking. Okay, maybe it's the opposite direction. How about that? Does that make a difference? No. How about if I open it up and see if it? Okay, now I bet. Now this is going to make a difference. Here, let me do this here. I think I got it now. How about that? Nope. How about that? There we go. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was standing on my right foot instead of my left foot. They have these, the on button, and when you look down at it, it says no. So I'm figuring I'm not going there and pressing that button. That's a no button. So turns out I should have pressed that button. But here, let me get over to a different one here. One of the things that you might want to consider, as you're in this period, like I've been doing some of this with training, for example, where I'll have a couple people in person and then, go to meeting or Teams or something like that going on at the same time. And then people, if they can't get away from their desk, I saw somebody was saying they can't get away, today, that kind of thing too, or not comfortable coming in, maybe it's part of it too. So you can do hybrid, right? That sort of thing too. So anyway, I'm Curt Egli. I'm a technical specialist with Topcon Solutions, and decided to bring along a couple banners today because, as David was saying, we went through a name change about 3 years ago, maybe 4. Hey, there's sandwiches here. You won't throw me. Come down and get some lunch, okay? Anyway, so, and by the way, if anybody else needs another cup of water or something in the presentation, or more chips, you're not going to throw me, probably, okay? Just David's questions, probably. So anyway, we used to be PPI Group, and a lot of people still know us by that name, and they think maybe we just disappeared, but we actually got bought by a larger company, Topcon Solutions. And Topcon does a lot of surveying equipment, machine control, that sort of thing. And it was just a natural fit because Civil 3D, Revit, horizontal construction, vertical construction, that sort of thing. So, and Bluebeam as well. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that with here under an Autodesk banner, but we're in 13 states and we're growing, or actually 20 states, 13 brick and mortar locations. I know we're in Texas now, so I got to get that slide updated as well. So we're here, there, and most everywhere. For myself, I worked at Autodesk for 17 years and as a technical account manager, working with large architecture and engineering firms worldwide, SOM, HOK, etc. And had gone to school, got my master's of architecture and a few other degrees as well. And I'm certified in a bunch of those stuff. Okay, so I thought we were going back and forth, as David was describing, of different things that we might want to present to you. And one of them that I'd like to spend a little bit of time on before we get into what's new is just dealing with slope. And, so it's not just about walls and roofs, it's, pipe and duct and things like that. And then then I put together some slides on what's new with Revit 2023, because some of you maybe haven't had a chance to experience it, or you know, you're working in 2021 on some big project, and you know, there's no reason to fire up 2023 yet. So, and then I got kind of carried away, and I made probably way too many slides. Okay, so then I went back through and I made 3 sentences for myself on every single one of them, so that we can actually get out before 3 o'clock, because that's my goal. Okay, but okay, we won't go quite that long, but at the end of it, I'm going to have my my email up here on a slide, and you can just take a photo of it and just send me an email and say, can you send me the slides, right? And I'll send it to you as a PDF. You can take a look at it, and even my notes too, because some of the slides, you know, don't make sense there. Okay, so and then, you know, I'll try and keep on task. So what I wanted to start here first was with the city of Portland. I've been working with them for the last couple of years, making a digital twin. I think there's actually a company out there called Digital Twin or product or something. Anyway, they call it Digital Twin. It's existing situation. The tunnels going here, there, and everywhere underneath the wastewater treatment plant. So I know, sexy stuff, wastewater treatment plant and all, but it's real life. The workflow here, I'll do, maybe we'll come back and do a case study sometime, and I'll bring them along maybe, or something like that. Kevin at the city, he's the manager of this team, and they're learning how to do Revit, right? And at the same time, we start with a scan of all the tunnels. There's still some scanning to be done, a laser scan, and then we take the point cloud into Edgewise from Clear Edge 3D, right? And just kind of quickly go through and just pick in the point cloud where all the pipes, conduit, things like that are. Then we bring that into Revit, and we make it in, they have a button in there to make it into an RVT, and we link it. And then we start doing modeling with Revit, you know, ceilings, if you will. They're concrete, but we call them ceilings. Anyway, we're using that entity. And then walls, floors, but lots of pipes and fittings and duct and conduit and on, okay? And the idea is, the end goal is to make something that's usable for maintenance management. And their goal is, they've got a big GIS group, so Revit's eventually going to be seamed together in Arc Pro, Esri's Arc Pro. So we've done some tests, and it works to get there. I got to stay away from fabrication components because I can't read them. So there were some really nice hangers and stuff we wanted, and it ain't happening. So anyway, through that process, I was kind of taken aback at how different the approach is for each one of Autodesk entities, just about. So I thought I'd do a little presentation there. And this is Revit 2023. So, you know, you're seeing the blue dots on the side. I'll get to that way at the end of the presentation here, and I'll explain what that is. But so here is, I brought in one of their tunnels here to start. I thought we'd start with floors and ceilings once. And just to kind of orient you, I turned the point cloud off in this one. You can see here that, you know, maybe I'll just zoom in a little closer here on this rack, right? You know, so we've been drawing the pipes through here and putting in fittings, Victolic fittings and stuff like that. And eventually we'll be adding, you know, what kind of material is flowing through it. And mostly you don't want to know. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're having lunch, so I'll just go on from that. Okay. So, and anyway, here's one of the tunnels, at least where we're at right now. So with regard to floors and ceilings, for example, we got to do a couple of things here. I'm going to go to the Manage tab, and I'll go to Project Units here first, just to head this off the pass. For the slope, since everything's going up and down, like I said in my description, I think parking garage, maybe more likely you're doing a parking garage than you're going to be doing tunnels, but theirs go up and down, and some of it has to do with inconsistencies or a concrete, but pretty much, you know, like this tunnel is 4 degrees and change, and this one's 2 degrees and change. I think I found one that's actually flat, okay, because everything, you know, is going from one building down below and then back up again, sort of a thing. So in terms of slope, first what we would want to do is make a change here. So I'm under common right now, and I'm going to change this over to degrees because I need to be more specific than just 1/8 inch to the foot or something like that. And then I'll come out as far as it lets me, which is 3 decimal places at least, without going custom. Okay, so there's one of the places that I'm going to change it. So that was here for slope, so right there. Boom. But then the other one I need to change is up here. Later on, when I go to try and determine what the angle is and I hit the dimension, it actually looks at this value right here. So it's already in degrees here. I'm going to change it to 3 decimal places as well, and then say okay. So that's kind of a setup sort of a thing that I would do for the project. I'm going to come back to this because pipe's different as well. Okay, so let's select the floor command here. I'll go with architecture and go to floor. And you know, it puts you in a mode here, right? So, you know, so I won't actually create a floor here. Just wanted to show you a few of the options that you have. One of them is later on you can change what to make this slope, but there's also slope arrow in here. And I can say, you know, I'd like the slope to go from here to here, uphill, downhill, that sort of thing. I finally eventually stumbled across this because I didn't know it was in there. I'd seen height at tail. So if you do know that, you know, so let me zoom in closer. There's the tail and the head. If you know what those numbers are, you can just fill in numbers. Okay, but this is actually a drop down in here. And so if I go to the drop down, I can pick on slope and then type in a slope value for it. Okay, so there's that as well. Ceilings, same thing. Roof, same thing. Okay, they at least take the same approach with those. Okay, anyway, I'll come on to that. That's what I wanted to show you there. With regard, let's see, I'll this, and then, you know, it's pretty easy to work with it though. You know, let me come back around here. Just made a little sample couple of floors here. When you pick on a floor, I put in a split line here. That's what you're seeing there. You can say modify sub-elements. You can put in split lines, modify sub-elements. You can actually get on individual points if you wanted to and make changes to them like that. But you can also get on a whole side here and just even, you know, drag it up if you wanted like that, right? So pretty flexible if you're doing that sort of thing. The same controls are not in there for ramps. It's something different, but I'm skipping ramps today. If you were working with walls, let me open up, let's go to this one here. Just briefly on walls, I won't take the time to draw one, but you can see here that you can't make a parallelogram out of it without actually changing the profile of it. You can stretch it up and down like that. And, you know, actually, if you're on the other axis, you can tilt it, right? Over the last several, you can tilt it this direction, but you can't actually make a, okay, so a rectangle is a parallelogram, Curt, but you can't make a parallelogram that's like that. Okay, all right. Anyway, so, you know, if you did that, it's edit profile like this, and then there's some pink lines out here. I don't know if you can see the pink lines. I'll drag one of them down. You know, just go ahead and draw in your new, they call it a closed loop, right? So just make that boundary or whatever you want. You can even put openings in it and stuff like that if you wanted to. And that's how that works. And I'm going to discard. Okay. Okay, so anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about there. Now, with regard to pipes, though, with regard to pipes, if I go back to the options again here for units, you saw that I changed the slope here under common, and I'm looking here. But, you know, if there's separate ones for different disciplines, so if I go to piping, they actually have their own slope one here, down here in this area. So roofs, floors, ceilings are accommodated by the one slope that you saw a little bit earlier. This one is specifically for pipes. So if you're doing something that goes back and forth, you got 2 people work sharing in there that's doing plumbing piping together with architect type or structural engineer, they don't step on each other's fingers. You don't have to keep overriding with different parameters. So, and so I went ahead and set this one for 3 decimal places as well. Okay, so that was one thing that I needed to do to get to where I want to go next. So let me open up. Let me go back to the west again. See, the west and the east are at different slopes. So let me just concentrate on one of them here. So I cut a section through through this part of the tunnel here, and you can see that the pipes are sloping uphill, right? So, you know, first thing, like I've already determined what the slope is, and you probably can't see it in the little tiny blue there, but let me turn a couple of these things off here once. Maybe the walls too, so you can just see the point cloud a little more readily, and the pipes. Okay, so we need to determine what that is. I'm just going to just rough this in once. I'm going to draw a detail line down here and then out horizontally. You know what I'm going for here. And then I do a angular dimension between that and determine what that is. Okay, so 4.317 degrees. Okay, now if I go to draw a pipe though, that's not going to be one of the choices. It's going to be limited. So at least if I'm drawing in plan anyway. So I got another setup thing to do. So I'm going to go back to the mechanical settings dialog and look at the slopes here. Now that I've changed it over to decimal, it doesn't say things like 1/8 inch equal a foot, 1/4 inch equal a foot, like the common ones for sanitary, for example. It shows these instead, you know, so I can put in a new slope, you know, I'll just put in 5, for example. You can make new slopes in there that show up. So this way, if I go back to plan and I draw a pipe, and let's see, 14 feet, sure. Draw a pipe out here. Okay, now there it is with slope off. Okay, now if I say I want to slope up, and then I can choose that, you know, say that I went with 5. I'm going to put one over here. I'll put it over here. And then I'll cut a section through there just so you can see. I'm hitting on, go to that view, and go to fine. So just drawing in plan, it went in at 5. Okay, now part of the beauty there is that you can work in plan, and like for us it was the edgewise pipes that we're going right over the top of, as we're, you know, we pick on the diameter and say, oh, that's a 6-inch diameter pipe, and you know, and start to work on it from there, even pick up elevations and stuff, that sort of thing. But I have this this view that I made right here that was just a plain section view cut through here. And you can see that you might want one for supports because, of course, they're going to stay on the z-axis by gravity, right? But I might want another one that is rotated. Okay, so the approach there might be for me to duplicate that view. And so it's like this. And then select, now this one would be for drawing pipes in that view. So I rotate it, and now I know what that angle is. So I'm going to go 94.33, enter, and it does like that. I can just turn the crop off, I guess, but let me show you. I suppose you can do the same thing with the scope box. I'm using the crop region to get this done. You can see here now if I draw a pipe, like if I can see it more easily in the section view, I go to pipe and I draw the pipe. Oops, you know, I can just say, I think I can even just say slope off. Let me see. Systems, pipe, slope off. That. Yeah, see that's more impressive. So consequently, 4.33. So I can draw it in section then where it makes sense. Of course, it's drawing it right on the section line. I have to move it over in plan, but at least I got something going on there for that. Okay. Now, lastly, with conduit and duct, I'm not sure what Autodesk was thinking here. Oops, let me get that over. If I go to duct, there's no slope on it. Now, normally we don't slope duct, but I've been in a couple of situations where I would, where I'm at in the woods, right? Maybe you guys are in the woods too, right? Of Washington, but down closer to Vancouver. You know, there's lots of bark chips, bark dust, things like that. They're pushing that stuff through duct, right? And, you know, sloping and stuff. And how do you design that, right? Because there's no slope, sort of a thing. So you can use the same process here. And then this way, if you go to draw a duct, I'll just draw one over here. And you can see if I select on it, it's already sloped. Okay, I haven't changed the values for that guy for slope, but it's already sloped exactly what I want. And lastly, this, I'll just do one more yet. Electrical, cable tray also, conduit, I'll just draw one of them in. Let me get a bigger diameter so you can see it. And do it. And if you pick on it, it's automatically sloped. Okay, so anyway, that's about slope. All right. And did you see how well I answered David's questions? I totally ignored him. And that's what I'm all about today. All right. So anyway, let's work a little bit with what's new. Okay, in Revit 2023, key themes and such. So, and I decided to take 4 kind of short ones and make a demo out of it. I tried to pick ones that are maybe across disciplines. If we have a structural engineer sitting next to electrical engineer, it's actually kind of interesting to them as well, hopefully. So, like I said, I'll try and keep myself to the time, which okay, so for themes, they break it down, or at least I'm breaking it down into 6 themes here: design productivity, simulation and analysis, interoperability, cloud and data, design optimization, which I got 1 for that one is all, document efficiency. Okay, so later when you get this PowerPoint, if you do want it as a PDF, this is the order that I'm going to take them through too. So like if you don't care about this, you know, electrical panels or something like that, you can find it, use this as an index, right? Because here's some of the new features I'll be going through. And there's fabrication and stuff in there. Not everybody does fabrication. So, all right, so here's a bunch more, the 6 different ones. And here's finally document efficiency. All right, so one is with measuring in 3D. Now, we've been able to measure, obviously, in 2D forever, and as near as I can remember anyway, forever. So now they let us do it in 3D, and I've been doing this with Navisworks all along. Like, you know, you can measure between 2 points, 2 surfaces. You can, if it's a curved surface, you can, you know, use buttons in Navisworks so that you can do perpendicular to and nearest point to and things like that. Kind of similar here. There's a control key to lock the measurement. I'm going to show you that one. This is one I wanted to show. So that we can snap either perpendicular to the face or perpendicular to the other face that we started off of here. And this will work in perspective views as well as orthographic. So let me go give this one a shot here. All right, I'll use that same data set so I don't have to jump around here so much. So let me go back to this one again here. Okay, all right, so let's see, where am I pivoting off of that? That's not a bad one. So I'm gonna go from this surface of wall over to this and find out how wide this is. Okay, so if I go to the measure and I say, you know, I want to go on this surface, and I'm just hovering, and my pre-selection color is blue, so you're kind of seeing an outline there. You see how it's measuring off. But if I shift it over here and tried to go here, now what am I getting here? I can see the other wall, right? So if I just go here, it's going to be just between 2 points. If I hold down the control key, you see how it's snapping me down to there? And then if I click, that's exactly what it is to, in this case, 128th of an inch. Okay. Anyway, just a quickie one. Go back to the slides. Also, picking a work plane now. You can set your work plane. They have a new shortcut, PK, in there for that. You can select the work plane with 2 clicks in the set work plane drop-down menu, and then you can smoothly go back and forth between work planes without having to open up the work plane option dialog anymore. And along those same kind of lines, it remembers the last work plane that you used in the project, which means you don't have to load and place a work plane based family. It will now activate the last used work plane as the default placement option, and then this selection will be retained until you reset it. As far as materials go, we got a lot of architect types in the room, so I thought I'd give a better description of what this one is. There's something new going on there where you can duplicate material and assets or duplicate using shared assets. So what I'm talking about there is if you choose to select duplicate material and assets, the source materials are duplicated as you'd expect, and then they're independent though of each other. If you choose the one with the shared assets, which is the next one down there, when you duplicate it, it'll share common assets, so a change to an asset affects both the new material and the source material. With regard to the cloud, BIM Collaborate Pro and BIM 360, you can share decals and material textures across geographically distributed teams using docs or custom external servers. If you render in BIM Collaborate Pro or BIM 360, it used to encounter missing materials, but you can get around that now. You can map your custom materials to the docs folder, allowing for rendering to display consistently on everybody's workstation. And developers can access this feature in the Revit API to build server connections. When selecting a view reference, you can search the list for a specific view, and searching is now enabled in the view reference dropdown. You can see here, like typed in enlarged, and it says, here's all of your enlarged ones. What do you want out of that? When placing a view reference or referencing another view. We have additional cuttable categories now. Furniture systems, casework, specialty equipment, plumbing fixtures, such like that. It's something that involves the family editor, so I thought I'd show you how that part works as well. So let me do that next. I just kind of oddly here placed a bookcase out here, so I didn't have to jump back and forth between drawings here once. But let me go back to this. You can see here that it has some shelves and doors and things like that inside. And if I select on it, it's considered furniture, which is on the list there, right? So just let me go ahead and fire that up in the family editor. Well, actually, let's take a look at it before I do that. So let me go to that view. The section goes right through the casework or whatever it is you're working on, furniture in this case, and you don't see the shelves and such in between. It's just something that doesn't do. But if you open this up in the family editor, here to the side, I'm going to toggle this on, and I'll zoom in so you can see a little closer. You just say enable cutting in views. And when you do that, I'm just going to load that right back in and close it. Not save, no. And overwrite the parameters, obviously. All of a sudden now we're seeing all the way through. You see the glass in the bookcase, you're seeing the shelves and all.
So if you have older content that you wanted to upgrade to 2023 and you wanted to enable that feature, upgrading the family itself won't do. You would have to edit the family and check the box.
Yeah, you have to check the box. And of course, then you can't come back either, right? Upwardly compatible only. I don't know, what's up with that? I was at Autodesk when we acquired Revit Technologies, and I was just kind of blown away. It's like, because I had to fight to have a save as old version in AutoCAD. They just wanted to straight ahead, no looking back kind of a thing. And Revit Technologies didn't do that. I used to look every single time to find out, are they going to let me do a save? I don't even look anymore. I didn't look this time. I thought, I'm not falling for that again. But it's one of these where Autodesk just ripped the rear view mirror off and threw it out the window. And like, we're not looking back, But kind of a hassle, right? I mean, the good news is, if you're under subscription, you can have 4 versions on your machine. But we probably all love this fact that you can. I know you'll love it. Okay, anyway. There's a number of structural ones in here. How many are structural engineers? Wow. Okay, so I'm going to go through kind of fast through the structural stuff, right? Okay. Okay.
There's some builders that might want
Okay. All right. All right. All right. So I didn't totally waste my time here. Okay. All right. So couplers, right? You can rotate the couplers with respect to the bar end for precise modeling to avoid clash, have avoidance of clashes. By default, the coupler geometry is always aligned to the bar end. For freeform rebar, the default position of the coupler is parallel to the host surface. To create complex geometry and display it in a realistic way in 2D, you can edit the coupler family and uncheck the align to view. So now we're back in the family editor again, but toggle that and then reload it back into your project. Here's another structural one. You can now change the structural usage value to non-bearing to create structural walls that define and divide spaces and support no vertical load except their own weight. You can export non-bearing structural walls to IFC or industry foundation classes for accurate coordination of reinforced concrete partition walls. That's another one. American steel section shapes have been updated according to the 15th edition of the American Institute of Steel Construction. And this one you probably don't care about, but I have no idea. The rebar shape library for UK was updated to the latest standard. I don't know where all you're doing work, so I threw that one into. Okay. You never know. Okay. There are now adaptive propagation features for rebar to increase your productivity in detailing concrete structures. You can choose the alignment method by host or by face. You can also switch between alignment modes when you've already selected a specific face or a host, making it easy for you to control the placement of newly created rebar. The new adaptive propagation features work for freeform rebar as well. Revit 2023 added library-based steel connection design. Type of steel connection are used to place them based on relevant criteria such as profile sizes, steel grades, and capable internal forces. These rules work in tandem with predefined libraries of connections containing the connection type, desired geometry parameters, and associated ranges of applicability to ensure connections are selected appropriately. And they're customizable, those libraries, so you can adjust and extend them to meet your requirements. More structural stuff, okay? But this is a good thing. Okay, the performance of rebar display in the cloud viewer has now been improved. You can easily publish and open 3D rebar views using Docs or the Construction Cloud Autodesk viewer to coordinate, inspect, and share 3D rebar details or views of the model. And then we got some MEP here. New elevation parameter improvements for MEP segment tags, elevation base options for tagging the upper end, lower end, and spot elevations of slope components now include top of insulation, top, center, bottom, and bottom of insulation. Also for, there's new elevation base options for MEP segment tags. They offer new parameters for elevation base constraints in the properties palette. Constraints can be set to relative to the component or driven by the project base point or survey point. And MEP segment tags for design and fabrication will automatically adjust based on your selection. New to Revit 2023 are flip controls for fabrication parts. Flip controls make them more efficient and more consistent with the design parts. And then just one more on fabrication, I believe. Elevation controls for fabrication parts. Our straight segment fabrication parts now use interactive in-canvas elevation markers, and these are editable to control elevation on fabrication parts. Changing the elevation will move the entire run, unlike design elements, which would apply a slope to the run. New MEP categories for plumbing equipment and mechanical control devices. Button tools have been added to the plumbing ribbon and mechanical ribbon. So that's these guys up here, a couple of new ones. They used to say that don't have any new categories. There's no new categories because, you know, it's consistent, reliable kind of a thing. Well, they just keep adding more and more categories. Seems like every third release or so. You can now rehost MEP connectors in the family editor, and when you rehost them, the information is retained for the new placement. Revit 2023 removes the extra step of clicking on Activate Dimensions from the options bar to view temporary dimensions of shared nested families. They've enhanced the model performance by skipping the regeneration and calculation of redundant rooms. This change improves the processing of linked file operations anywhere between 15 and 20% for models with large number of room objects. And that could be significant. The enhancement will be noticeable in models with area and volume computations enabled. Revit now suppresses on-screen controls and pins to have a better display performance experience with large selections like you're seeing there in the upper. You don't have to see it that way with 5 million pins now. The Activate tool enables and disables the visibility of pins, constraints, and temporary dimensions. Bunches of stuff here. Let me just give you kind of a sense for this. 30 improvements of 35% navigation performance, 3 times for unpinned elements containing 3D DWG geometry, 3 times improvement of performance, display, and stability for raster images, 25% on the average for opening and navigating views containing a large number of MEP elements. With a model with more than 350 view filters, they can get 30 to 400 times performance over prior releases. 35% in opening and navigating views contain large number of hidden edges, 2 times in slab control point performance, and 3 times in slab shape editing performance, 700 times in linking DWG files. I'm going to have to see that one. 700 times? Up to, actually it says up to. Improved performance for copying sketch-based elements such as floors and roofs and ceilings by up to 6 times. And then finally, when the type selector contains many items, you've had negative performance, but those are all, they say all but negated. Anyway, bunches of good stuff there. Simulation analysis. It's now completely autonomous. You can choose to initiate structural analysis workflows without any physical content. You know, for example, when you're starting a project from scratch, you can focus exclusively on analytical modeling, just like you would with traditional analytical software. Analytical elements are fully parametric and associated with grids and levels, enabling you to control element positioning using those datums. So, as before, you can leverage existing physical geometry in 2D and 3D as the context for your analytical model, but the analytical model remains associated to the physical geometry, but is now independent, providing you with the benefits of speed and accuracy in protecting your analytical model from unexpected change. They've also introduced structural analytical automation. This tool enables you to generate a structural and analytical model automatically when selected physical geometry. When you select physical geometry, it ensures you that the automatically created model contains consistent and connected. The new analytical elements should be associated with physical counterparts and inherit their properties. There's new features for electrical analysis. You can leverage the architect's PDF, DWG, and Revit geometry to perform preliminary load calculations earlier in design process prior to modeling the electrical equipment. So if your architect type and you give them your model in PDF or whatever, they can start to do it early and often, right, before they actually start placing stuff in there. Okay. And then you can define equipment loads for conceptual distribution systems, and then use schedules to list, group, and sum the conceptual loads. There's a new set of contextual tools to help you preview and control solar studies. There's new animation controls that you can explore the performance under a solar study and update the parameters with new speed, sunlight intensity, and shadow intensity controls in the display panel. And you can switch between solar study types on the fly, so still image, single day, multi-day, or in session still. Or no, what was the third one? There was a fourth one in there. Can't remember what the fourth one is. Interoperability. So, are you using Formit now? Anybody using Formit? Nobody's using Formit? Okay, maybe this will be more compelling. So if you're using Revit 2023 and Formit Pro 2023, they've expanded the features for interoperability. You can now link Formit AXM files directly in the Revit, and then changes to the Formit file are reflected in Revit when it's reloaded, just like normally with a Revit file. And when you're working in Revit, you can now edit a linked Formit file in just 2 clicks. And then I have one more on Formit here. It's now brought into a linked file instead of a CAD import. So if you're doing round trip, it's going to streamline that workflow. A preview mode setting in Formit allows you to select which layers will transfer, so you don't have to take them all. You can now link additional CAD file types into Revit projects. All supported CAD file types can now be placed on levels or named horizontal reference planes as they're imported. And there's a new instance parameter that allows you to cut 3D elements of the CAD file, which has been a problem for me in the past and not been able to cut it.
So
yeah,
you can actually cut the CAD geometry in section.
Yep, that's what they say. I only got a hold of it like 3 weeks ago, so I haven't had a chance to try everything, but that's
usually a problem.
Yeah, so, you're working with a fabricator, or you're working with somebody that, just doesn't want to adopt Revit because they're working in, AutoCAD MEP, perhaps, something like that. That could be a big advantage. Other than, in the past, when I'm doing BIM manager kind of a role, I'm going, you have to get off of AutoCAD and get on to Revit. And now there's a workaround for it. So I don't know if that's gonna. Okay. IFC parameters, industry foundation classes, right? The new export mapping dialog allows you to select an IFC schema and search on it for a specific IFC container and element and predefined type, and then apply those values to the elements on your model. The same dialog is used to control entities included in your IFC exports. So this one seems to be about export though. I didn't see anything in the anywhere about changes to the import, which there was a few things I would have liked to see. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff I'd like to see in there, but there's always something, right? So if you're bringing some in from some other package, you might end up with meshes in there. So now you can override the colors in meshes just as you would with solids and hide their internal edges. Like I used to teach, I haven't taught it in a while, but I used to teach 3ds Max for Revit users, and we would link in the Revit model and then start to doctor it up and stuff. But one of the things, like when I'm working with like somebody that does zoos, for example, or wildlife habitats. I have a couple customers that do that, both in the East Coast and out here, and boulders, right? They work with concrete sculptures, guys that do that kind of a thing. But it's a really free form kind of a thing. You can work in 3ds Max, but then it comes out, and then you got all those meshes and stuff, so it's sort of distracting, right? I haven't tried using invisible lines to hide everything. But anyway, so in certain circumstances, this might be a good thing. Direct shape import, you can now choose a placement option of imported or linked direct shapes, including auto origin to origin or manual origin to or center. For those are two manual ones in there. And you can select a level or named reference plane for the incoming geometry. Cloud and data, Autodesk spent a lot of time there in the cloud. Data exchanges now. You can create data exchanges by publishing a Revit file to Autodesk Docs, right, of course. And then you can create an exchange by selecting a published view or sharing it with a stakeholder in a neutral format that can then be plugged into an Autodesk or third-party application. And here are a few workflow examples. I just wanted to point out, though, that the Revit to Microsoft Power Automate is coming soon, whatever coming soon is. Some of these features, not that one obviously, but some of these features, if you keep getting your dot releases, right? Back in the old days, everything came once a year at you. And now they do dot releases, because they find a bug or 12 or whatever. But if they bake a new feature and it seems to be working and they can't find any bugs in it, like 2022.1 I have on here, some of these things, they bake it in right away. So, I always go for the dot release as soon as possible, whatever release I'm on. In part, you get some new features, but you also maybe have a more stable product too. The MEP Fabrication Data Manager Tech Preview is now available, and with it you can upload your fabrication configurations to the cloud, and then that way unlock new collaboration workflows. There's an enhanced navigation system that allows you to view, understand, and manage relationships between various types of data. The parameter service is a technology preview that allows you to manage your parameter library using the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Using the parameter service, you can search for parameters and pull them in bulk from your Revit model. And I didn't put it in here, but or shared parameter file. You can now force, this may actually be something worth listening to. You can now force workset relinquishing on cloud models from the Revit home screen. In previous releases, rolling back a cloud model to a previous version was an irreversible process. All backup versions newer than the version selected for rollback would be permanently discarded. Revit 2023 introduces a non-destructive model rollback process. This means that all backup versions are preserved in the version history, and you can roll back or forward to any existing backup. That means you can roll back your Revit cloud models easily and reversibly with Revit 2023. Design optimization. I told you I only have one of these, but here it is. It's about generative design and Dynamo Player. They've added new input types and changed some of the method naming. You're going to see a name change to try and make it a little clearer. The Dynamo Player user interface is now made to look more like the generative design interface. I've got them side by side here in the slide. And the idea is more consistency for user interface, make it a little easier for you. And document efficiency. Let's get into that. You saw me working with 2023 with the floors out there a little bit earlier. There's new floor subcategories, folding lines and split lines. The two of them replace one single, one that was in here before. So you can add points or split lines to divide it into subregions that slope independently. So replacing interior edges, right, if you saw that subcategory, the floor category now includes folding lines and split line subcategories, letting you, and I think really at the heart of it, like I haven't been able to see any difference necessarily on the way it works. It's just for visibility. You can say, this one I'd like to be more grayed out than that one, and this pops out and that one kind of disappears. So check that out once if you work with that sort of thing. In previous versions of Revit, the room and areas parameter values cleared empty when a key was set to none. In Revit 2023, if the key is unassigned from an element, the last values assigned to the element are maintained. Conditional formatting, so this is more about schedules and actually being able to see your data and understand it more clearly. They've added conditional formatting for family, type, and family and type parameters. And each of these new fields can be configured independently to help you differentiate them. So, I got some in yellow, some in green, some in cyan, etc.
Conditional formatting is only for those three things.
Those are the new ones that are added. Okay. Yeah. So we still got the other ones yet too. Just we're making it more and more complex so that you can ask for a raise, right? Anyway, show you this one. I think this is pretty interesting. Filter by sheet and schedules. Okay, so they've added a new capability in schedules to enable you to detect and display only those project elements relative to relevant to the schedule that exists on other views placed on the same sheet. Okay, if you crop a view on the sheet, the schedule is still live and the contents of the schedule will instantly update. As the sheet filtering behavior is dynamic, you can place the same schedule on multiple sheets and each instance of the schedule will display the elements found on its respective sheet. So check this out. I'll go do that one. I thought that was kind of interesting. So here, let me just close some of these inactive views here. I'm getting a bunch of them open. All right, so save it. All right, so let's see. Let me open up. I have a sheet started here. West plan and schedule. Let's do that one. Okay, now I went ahead and placed a view on here. Okay, so this one is the west tunnel that you saw a little bit earlier there. And right here is the pipe fitting schedule that goes with it. And I just wanted to draw your attention down here at the bottom. It says there's 49 in that tunnel so far with that. Now, if I activate the crop, oops, here, I'll activate the view and activate the crop and drag it in so that I'm only looking at the west end of the tunnel. And then I deactivate the view. So far, nothing happens. Okay, so I'm getting a bunch of stuff in the schedule that actually is not reflected in the drawing, right, on the sheet. So you got to go into your schedule. So this is a pipe fitting schedule. I'm going to open up that one. And it's under the filter tab, I guess would make sense, right? If I go to the edit button next to filter, here's where it is, filter by sheet. And if I select that and click OK, and then I go back to the schedule, it's not 49 anymore. Okay. If I activate this again, drag it down here, it changes now to 11. Okay. You know, like single point of truth kind of stuff, I guess, is the idea, right? Deactivate the view here. It still shows all the pipe fittings, yeah. Yeah, so we still got all 49 here. And, you know, I'm not going to do this, but let me go ahead here. I'm going to take that pipe fitting schedule and just throw it out here on this one. And if I go back to here, it still says there's 11. It did let me put it on another sheet here. Oh, duh. Okay, I was just kind of, I don't have anything on that sheet, so I got 0. Okay, all right. So there's that. A little later on, I'll come back to this because this icon should be changing as well, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here with those kind of weird blue dots going on here. Okay, so I got a few more here. We're getting closer. Here. Rebar, 4 new fields available, and you can see them there. We'll do it that way. And you can use them in tags. Displaced elements, I don't know if you ever used that before, but 3D, you can tear things apart, even take a wall and just strip out the layers of the wall and set them to the side. You can do it now in 2D views as well. And when it's stripped apart like that, you can tag it. There's multi-leader enhancements here. You can select multiple elements and generate a single tag for all of them. You can control the visibility of individual tag leaders by hiding all of them or several. Tagging is for more categories now. They've including Revit links and model groups. You now have the ability to displace rebar members, just like what we were talking about with 2D enhancements like in the wall that I showed there, just for clarity, but it doesn't actually move anything around in the model if you use that kind of displacement. I think displacement came in 2023, somewhere in there. It's easier to visualize rebar in 3D views and a couple of new shortcut keys. If demolished elements, I don't think anybody's ductwork in here perhaps, but demolished elements, it maintains the system information and such like that. And electrical equipment, circuit numbers shown in the properties palette for panel schedules and electrical equipment tags. This one you might have encountered if you use topo surfaces with contours. They'd be upside down lots. Now they doesn't do that anymore for all situations. Okay. For generic annotation, they've improved that for consistent orientation. So when a generic annotation on a ceiling plan will match the plan version, I didn't realize that, but maybe you guys have ran into this where everything's backwards. If you rotate the host element, it won't change the orientation of these elements, and or mirrored, on vertical surfaces, the still will match the host elements. And on output, I'm close to done. On output here for PDF, you have the ability to choose what order you would like to have for the export. You can customize the page orders, and if you use manual, you can drag and drop sheets into whichever order you choose. That might be kind of cool. And fill patterns, you don't have to create separate fill patterns using edit type, because now you can do this via instance. So you can have like one regional fill that is a little bit different than that one without creating a new type. It's instance parameter now, or it can be. And they have a tool here for swapping views on a sheet. If you swap with a currently placed sheet with compatible views, so you probably can't swap a schedule or a legend with a floor plan, I suppose, when they say compatible. You can select the existing view and use a view list from the ribbon, and it's searchable, and you can have filters. There's a new subcategory for wall sweeps that have been added to view filters, and that way you control the visibility and graphic appearance of wall sweeps independent of the host, and the rule bases for base and top constraint, base and top offset. You can manage those as well. Now, this is the part with these blue dots here. They have in the project browser. What they're trying to get at here is I can at a glance look here, and West Tunnel is on some sheet, and so it's blue. And apparently that is too. My pipe schedule is on the sheet as well. So, you know, for example, here, I'll just do it here. Let's see, so we take East Tunnel. Did I make one? Oh, here it is down here. I'm just going to drag this. You see how it's not filled in right now. Drag and drop it onto a sheet and place it. And this fleshes out actually. Now I got the East Tunnel in there, and now it's blue just at a glance. Here's the part that it's supposed to do is, you know, not all 49 are here. There's 37 of them, and it said in the slide, half-filled icon, the schedule is partially on a sheet. So I'm not seeing that, so I'll have to explore that a little bit, but that'd be another indicator there as well. And then lastly, document enhancements, so for ease of use and performance. Okay, so I know that went by kind of fast here with that just kind of bang, 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 but I wanted to make sure that I stayed on track and not get too off the, if you want me to send this to you, just let me know and send me an email, okay? All right, thanks a lot for your time.
All right, now I see why they changed the splash screen. It's actually pretty substantial new release, so that's pretty cool. Thanks for that, Curt. I know that we're right at 1 o'clock, but if there's any questions, I mean, I'm sure you can probably hang out a few minutes while we're wrapping up if anybody needs to come up and ask something. We'll be here for a little bit. Otherwise, I want to be respectful of everybody's time and not kind of open up for Q&A right now. I just wanted to, let me take my glasses off so I can see what I'm doing. Again, a very big thank you to Topcon Solutions, and a very big thank you to you for coming out and joining us in person again for the first time in two years. Next meeting will be next month in June. I said we have a little bit of a weird schedule, so just kind of pay attention to the meetup announcements. I wanted to point this one out. This is an example of what I was talking about. Microsoft Resources is out of New York City. They really like us. They really like putting presentations. They do good content, but traveling to Seattle for, you know, a 1.5 hour meeting on a Wednesday is not really in the cards for them. So we will be online. So just pay attention to the announcement on Meetup. The link for the Zoom will be on there. I'll usually follow it up with an email. So there'll be a little bit of that this year. Some will be online, some will be in here. We'll figure out a rhythm. But again, thank you very much for coming. And it's good to be in here. If maybe a little bit awkward, I'm a little bit out of practice, but hey, aren't we all? So thank you so much. Have a great afternoon and enjoy the rest of your week.
Did you send you that